welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zheng. Today, I will give you an update of the latest CCP virus situation in China, how serious it is, and a little bit of discussion of the CCP's method of pandemic control. Then I will talk about a very important change in the CCP's national defense mobilization related laws that have been overlooked by mainstream media, as well as the possible reasons behind the change. The most important message is at the end, so please do stick around till the end. Although the CCP has been boasting the advantages of its system in pandemic control and prevention, latest information shows that a new round of outbreak has spread to 17 provinces. Beijing officials announced yesterday that people should not leave the city unless it is very important, and the Beijing residents who are outside the city and have a time and space overlap with confirmed cases must delay the return to Beijing. Time and space overlap is a term, I think, crafted by Chinese officials, which means you've been to places where COVID-infected persons have been to as well. For example, if one infected person has been to a supermarket, all the people who went to that supermarket at the same time or around the same time are regarded as having a time and space overlap with that person and need to be tested, monitored, and quarantined as a result. The CCP is using big data and health code to closely monitor everybody's movement. On October 30th, the Tongzhou district in Beijing announced that it had detained 9 people and dealt with 7 epidemic control-related cases. The reasons for the detention include illegal entry into Beijing, trying to evade inspection into Beijing, etc. Also, just after midnight, early this morning at 12:40 a.m., all the students in a 3rd grade class and Chaolai campus of Huajiadi Experimental Primary School in Chaoyang District in Beijing were pulled away for quarantine. Let's watch a short video. Well, the parents were shouting, "Stay strong" to the kids while they were being driven away. The reason for taking the students away is that a teacher of this class was just confirmed to have CCP virus, and 4 people out of 5 members of this teacher's family have all been infected. One of the infected members had just got the 3rd vaccine shot. Then on October 31st, Shanghai authorities suddenly issued an emergency notice saying that Shanghai Disneyland was locked down and Disneyland was closed to visitors. At the same time, all the people who had been to the park in the last 2 days were asked to undergo immediate testing and quarantined at home for 12 days. The 46,000 visitors who were in the park that day were locked inside the park. Let's watch a short video of this.
完了！最怕朋友突然的关心，迪士尼真的封园了，我们都出不去了。哇，绝了！手机也快没电了。
So that was in Shanghai. Now let's watch another video from Jiangxi province.
燕山县又有疫情了，见鬼了！那是好好的，回不去嘞，见鬼似的，大检查。现在5路口这栏目了，就栏目了，不得劲了。
So that was in Jiangxi province. According to Chinese media, on October 31st, Xining city in Qinghai province, China urgently bought 3,000 virus test tube transfer kits. So altogether, 10 million yuan worth of pandemic prevention materials have been bought, and these materials can be used to test 2.6 million people. Nearly 2,000 screening stations have been set up in the city, ready to get everyone tested. In the meantime, Ruili city in Yunnan province has been under lockdown since March. For 7 months, this city is like a ghost town. So the streets are all empty. So many people, hundreds of thousands of them, live in hardship. And there were even reports about people jumping to their deaths because they could no longer handle the pressure. And the two party secretaries of the city have been removed within 7 months because they failed to control the pandemic. And this is a terrible quarantine site in Ruili city at night. Let me show you a video of another quarantine site in the daytime.
抄了会儿经书，也没事干，给邻居们打个招呼吧。
Isn't that scary? Now another video. So it is not clear when and where these videos were shot, but definitely in China somewhere. So you can say that in the CCP's China, what it means by lockdown is totally different from the lockdown we understand in other parts of the world. On October 31st, the Tianshui Emergency Rescue Association issued a letter asking for help. The letter says that as of that day, the frontline pandemic fighting has lasted for 11 days and we've run out of all our supplies. We call for urgent help with personal protective equipment and masks, etc. A resident told the reporter of the Chinese edition of the Epoch Times that the control is even stricter than in Wuhan last year. Only one person per family is allowed to go shopping once every 3 days. People don't know how bad the situation is and are in panic. So above is what we know about the latest situation of the pandemic in China. Because of the CCP's cover-up, the real situation can only be far worse. The CCP boasted about its pandemic control achievement, but nobody knows how many people have really died or how much people have suffered or how much the social cost has been. Take the case of Shanghai Disneyland, for example. 46,000 people were locked inside the park because only one woman who had visited the park on the previous day had tested positive for the CCP virus. And all the people who visited the park on October 30th and 31st have to be tested. That's over 120,000 people in total. These people all have to be tested and quarantined for 2 weeks. And all these are the result of only one confirmed case. Does it have to be this exaggerated and this drastic? Do we want to learn from the CCP's way of dealing with the virus? Now, let's move to our main topic today, the CCP's defense mobilization laws. On October 23rd, the CCP Standing Committee of the National People's Congress passed a decision to provisionally adjust the application of the provisions of related laws during the period of deepening the reform of national defense mobilization systems. The decision itself is very short, only about 250 words, but it covers 4 important national defense-related laws, including the National Defense Mobilization Law, Air Defense Law, National Defense Transportation Law, and the National Defense Education Law. The decision basically says that during the period of deepening the reform of the national defense mobilization system, the application of the provisions of the above-mentioned 4 laws will be provisionally or temporarily adjusted, and the provisions to be adjusted include national defense mobilization, the mobilization of the People's Armed Force, economic mobilization, civil air defense, traffic preparation for defense purposes, national defense education leadership and management system, the allocation of functions of military and civilian authorities, the structure of work bodies, and the use of national defense mobilization resources, etc. The decision also says that specific measures shall be governed by the applicable decisions of the CCP Central Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission. Relevant laws shall be amended and improved in a timely manner upon the maturity of reform measures. The decision was effective immediately after it was announced. So, what does all this mean? Because the language of the decision is so boring and difficult to understand, it seems that nobody notices it or cares about what it means. Neither has the media offered much coverage or analysis of it. When trying to figure out what this decision really means, I found Shen Bing, Director General of the Defense Mobilization Department of the CCP Central Military Commission, did give an explanation of the decision on October 19th. So this is his explanation, but his explanation is about as hard to understand as the decision itself. After reading the decision as well as the explanation of the decision for many, many times, I finally figured out the following. Basically, Shen Bing said that the 4 important national defense-related laws, including the National Defense Mobilization Law, Air Defense Law, National Defense Transportation Law, and the National Defense Education Law, have given out many regulations on national defense mobilization and all the items I mentioned earlier. So in order to deepen the reform of the national defense mobilization system, those laws need to be amended but the reform task is very urgent, and the time needed to amend the laws is too long. So they have to ask the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress to make temporary adjustments. And based on the principle of under the comprehensive leadership of the party, the government should conduct the construction for the military to use. We need to improve the leadership and management system of national defense mobilization, clarify the responsibilities of national defense mobilization of various systems, set up a smoothly connected coordination system between the military and the civil sectors, etc. So the combined hidden message behind the decision and the explanation of this decision is this. All the current regulations, rules, items in the 4 important national defense-related laws are no longer valid, will stop to be applied, will be suspended or adjusted, etc. We don't have enough time to amend the laws or make new laws, so we will replace these laws with orders from the CCP Central Committee, the State Council, and the Central Military Commission. So this is to say the CCP's rubber stamp the People's National Congress, which is supposed to be a legislative body, has basically said we will get rid of the National Defense Mobilization Law or other related laws we made before and give the right of making new laws or regulations to the CCP's Central Committee. So now, did you get the real message? As far as I can see, the real message is that Xi Jinping has urgently taken over the power, the right to make national defense mobilization related laws and regulations, and he will have the right to mobilize all the resources of the entire society to participate in national defense. And he didn't want to wait until next year's People's Congress to have the laws amended. He wanted to take control of everything now. Another thing to notice is the timing of the decision. We all know that tensions at this Taiwan Strait have been escalating very quickly this year. On October 10th, which is the National Day of the Republic of China, not the CCP's People's Republic of China, President Tsai Ing-wen delivered a speech. She said, and for the first time that, quote, "Let us here renew with one another our enduring commitment to a free and democratic constitutional system, our commitment that the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China should not be subordinate to each other, our commitment to resist annexation or encroachment upon our sovereignty, and our commitment that the future of the Republic of China or Taiwan must be decided in accordance with the will of the Taiwanese people," unquote. You know, before this, there is a so-called 92共识, which means 1992 consensus. It refers to a consensus reached between the CCP and the Taiwan Straits Exchange Foundation, a semi-official organization. And the main consensus was an expression called 一中各表 in Chinese, which means one China, different interpretations. This is to say that the CCP and Taiwan can each interpret which China is the one China. The CCP can say that this one China is the CCP's People's Republic of China, while Taiwan can say that this one China is the Republic of China. But both parties agree that there is only one China. However, in this year's National Day speech, President Tsai Ing-wen's statement that The Republic of China and the People's Republic of China should not be subordinate to each other, has in fact, for the first time ever, denied this consensus of one China, different interpretations, and has clearly expressed the idea that there exists a Republic of China and a People's Republic of China. Although she didn't say it, everyone could get the implication that the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China are two different entities or countries. The CCP has so far set many different red lines regarding Taiwan. Sometimes its mouthpieces say that the day when American troops stationed in Taiwan is the day to liberate Taiwan with force. But the real red line, or the bottom line, is the Declaration of Independence. Of course, we can't say that President Ing-wen has declared independence in her National Day speech, but it is definitely one step further toward that direction. It is the first time that she referred to the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China as two different countries. So we can say this has really touched the CCP's real red line. Perhaps that was the reason why only after less than 10 days of President Tsai Ing-wen's speech, the CCP Standing Committee of the People's Congress urgently issued such a decision to give the power to Xi Jinping for him to virtually bring the country to war status. Another important function of the decision is that by doing so, Xi Jinping is taking away more power from his political rivals, and in this instance, from China's Premier Li Keqiang. The CCP State Commission for National Defense Mobilization was set up in 1994, and this commission's mission is to coordinate the national defense mobilization under the leadership of the State Council and the Central Military Commission. So please note that the State Council is ranked before the Central Military Commission. Article 12 of the National Defense Mobilization Law that was passed in 2010 also gives the same description that the State Commission for National Defense Mobilization is responsible for organizing, guiding, and coordinating the national defense mobilization work under the leadership of the State Council and the Central Military Commission. And who is in charge of the State Council? China's Premier. And you can see that on the front page of the CCP's Ministry of National Defense, Li Keqiang's photo is at the right top, and his title there is the Director of the State Commission for National Defense Mobilization. So in theory, Li Keqiang should be in charge of the National Defense Mobilization Commission as well as all the national defense mobilization tasks. However, the newly passed decision says that all the previous laws are no longer valid, and the CCP's Central Committee is now in charge of everything. As Xi Jinping is the head of the CCP's Central Committee, all the power is now in Xi Jinping's hands. There's another piece of news that we should take notice of. On October 27th, the CCP's Central Military Commission issued a regulation which says that in order to better protect the health and welfare of military families, enhance the cohesion of the troops' combat power, and enhance the sense of honor of military personnel, all military personnel, as well as their spouses and children, can enjoy free medical treatment. Their parents and parents-in-law can enjoy discounted medical treatment price, etc. So this, of course, is a very big deal for military personnel, as healthcare, education, and housing are said to be the three big mountains on top of Chinese people's heads, which means healthcare, education, and housing are the three biggest burdens for Chinese people. So now the CCP is removing one of the three big mountains from military personnel's heads. The CCP will offer free medical treatment to not only all military personnel themselves, but also their spouses and children. But this policy only applies to active current military members, not to retired ones or veterans. So it is very obvious that the CCP is offering this treatment not out of its respect for military personnel, but because it needs the active military members to fight, or maybe to sacrifice their lives for the CCP now. So this policy only applies to active military members. So if we put all the information together, what conclusion can we draw? According to Simon Gao, host of Zooming In, and also a personal friend of mine, the CCP's elders have long since entrusted the task of unifying Taiwan to Xi Jinping. They have decided many years ago, when they chose Xi Jinping as the successor of Hu Jintao, that Xi needs to accomplish the task of unifying Taiwan in his lifetime. That is the reason why Xi was able to change China's constitution so he could stay in power forever. As a matter of fact, when the CCP made its 14th five-year plan and its visionary goals for 2035 last year, promoting the peaceful development and cross-state relations and the reunification of the motherland has been written into the plan as one of the visionary goals for 2035 as a single independent chapter, chapter 62. So we can also say that the reunification of the motherland is already the CCP's official goal that needs to be realized before 2035. If Xi Jinping can get it done before 2035, that, of course, is a big plus. There are also people saying that Xi Jinping won't dare to really start a war against Taiwan, as he can't win the war whatsoever. If he starts a war, that means the end of the CCP. So, will he start a war or not? I will let you decide. Well, that's all for today. Before you go, I have one more message. So if you haven't, please go to my website at jenniferzengblog.com. Sign up to become a member or make a donation. After you become a member, you can go to the member area, submit questions or topic suggestions, claim your free gift, and check out members-only content. The script and audio files can give members some alternatives to save time if you don't have to watch the videos. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for your support. See you next time.